What's going on, you guys? My name is Cody Thixton, and this is Interesting Podcast. We are coming to you guys live on September 23rd, 2025 for episode 114, where today we actually have a very special guest. And now, it is an absolute pleasure to introduce to you guys VOI.
Oh wait, is that my cue to talk?
Yeah.
How you doing, Cody?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. It's really lovely to actually connect with you and talk with you. We've been seeing you in chat and multiple streams on TikTok, and now we actually get to talk with you. It's great.
Yeah, thank you so very much for joining me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, likewise. And I'm so impressed, let me just say, the 114 episodes is no small feat. Congratulations on, sticking to your guns and doing what you clearly enjoy doing.
Well, I really, really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Well, let's just start out for all the people who maybe don't know you. Maybe you can introduce your name, where you're from, and maybe when did you start doing TikTok?
So my name is Wojciech. The correct pronunciation of my name is Wojciech. Like there's a soft H sound at the end, but it's quite difficult for Anglophones to pronounce it. So I just do the K sound. And it also kind of helps with helping people to remember how to pronounce it or how to say it, or even remember my name. So oftentimes when I'm meeting people in person, I'll say it's Wojciech, like a void check without the D. And so then whenever I meet them again in a couple of months' time or weeks' time, they're like, don't tell me. And I can literally hear the hamster wheels start spinning, and they're like doing the math. They're like, Wojciech? I'm like, yes, they never forget. So that's kind of cool. I was born in Poland. It's a uniquely Polish name.
Wow.
We left Poland when I was 8 years old, and I've lived in Canada ever since, with a couple of stints in the States, in Los Angeles and Yokohama in Japan. But Canada's been home for the most part. I spent most of my life in Ottawa, about 20, 30 years. And then for the last 8 years, I've lived on Vancouver Island and on the west coast of Canada. And I guess not same side as you, I understand, right?
Pacific Northwest.
Pacific Northwest. What an incredible place to live. Wow. Such stunning beauty, eh? So TikTok, I've been doing TikTok for about 2 years now. I think the first time I went live would have been March. Probably not 24, but 2023. So almost 2 years, I guess 1 3/4 at this point. We're getting so close to March now. Maybe 1.5, maybe 1.5 is maybe more accurate. And I stream daily. I've been streaming daily with a couple of breaks here and there, but mostly we play word games. I started off doing the drawing game on the phone. I would draw and people guess what I'm drawing and stuff. But we've stuck to Wordle, Contexto, and a couple of daily games like Squares and Spell Bee for the last little while now. I'm not sure if that covers all of the things you asked for.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, I find it so fascinating that you're actually from Poland. Like, is there any specific memories that you remember being a little kid and being in that country?
As being a kid, maybe not so much, but I've been back like maybe twice. The last time I was back was in 2001, maybe, or in 2000. And I seem to recall every time I'm there, everything looked just so gray and gloomy. I imagine that things have changed a lot since the last time I was there in the last 20, 25 years. But when I would visit, all the buildings just had this gray feel to them and stuff. I guess some things that I remember from being there as a kid is, so during the communist town, everything was really scarce, right? There was a lot of rationing. People were rationed food and other things. But even the basic essential things like toilet paper was so difficult to come by. So for whatever reason, sometimes they would sell toilet paper in convenience stores or kiosks, more like they're like kiosks in the middle of like some busy intersection. And so oftentimes, you would see people manage to buy toilet paper. And the way you bought toilet paper in Poland was they would just string a bunch of rolls of toilet paper on a rope, kind of like a beaded necklace or something, tie it, and then people would just kind of put it over their shoulder and walk with it across, walk home. And I just always thought, it's like, oh wow, where did he find toilet paper? Where did they find toilet paper? It was like this badge of honor to wear this huge, necklace of toilet paper. And then with toilet paper, it would not be uncommon to actually, as you're sitting on the toilet paper, looking at the toilet paper, you could actually find letters from newspapers. So it was recycled newspapers that they turned into toilet paper, but I guess poorly recycled.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot of interesting things like that, I think back and I'm like, wow, like it was such an accomplishment to find toilet paper.
That is so fascinating. That's crazy. I know you had also just brought up that you had a short stint in Japan. Do you mind if we dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I guess it would have been in 2000. I spent March seems to be like a very time for me. It was March 2000, I think, that I went to Japan. I went to teach English there with a company called Nova. So Nova had English language schools pretty much at every train station. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of train stations in Japan. Yeah, so I lived in Yokohama, which is part of the Kanto area, which encompasses like the greater Tokyo area. And yeah, it took me about 40 minutes by train to actually get to Tokyo, but it was still considered part of Tokyo. But Yokohama in itself, I think, was about 5 to 8 million people, so decent sized city. One of the things that I remember about that experience was the train station. So I worked at Yokohama Honko, which is central Yokohama. It was the main Yokohama station. And without exaggeration, at least 23 train lines would come into this train station, and they all poured out into this underground room. It wasn't really a hall. Didn't have high ceilings or anything, but this underground space. So you had exits of people just pouring out into. So oftentimes when multiple trains arrive at the same time. I remember when I was getting to work for the first couple of weeks, this is the point of the story, getting off the train was a traumatic experience. I would literally get off the train and walk into this space, and everybody was running around like it was like a beehive or like an ant farm. Everyone was going in every which direction, and it would just stress me out so much. I remember I had to walk up some stairs, cross this little sidewalk, and there was this one spot where I could like sit. So I'm like, I just need to get to the sitting place. I just need to get to the sitting place. I would go sit, close my eyes, and literally talk myself out of an anxiety attack. It's like, you're okay. It's over. It's fine. It'll be okay. The rest of the way is not like that, So it was intense. It was
Yeah.
intense.
That is so fascinating. So, like, did you kind of like start to like pick up little bits of Japanese when you were there, so like you could communicate and whatnot?
はい、私の日本語少しですね。
That means
Yeah,
I
a
learned
little
very
bit.
little, or what?
My Japanese is very little. Yeah, so I picked up enough Japanese not to really um be very conversational, but enough to like get by here and there. I did some Japanese before going to Japan. I took some classes, evening classes. That was back in Ottawa when I lived there. But yeah, that actually brings up an interesting experience that I'll just interject here if you don't mind about language.
Go ahead.
So when we left Poland to immigrate or to leave Poland, right, to claim refugee status, we did that in Athens in Greece. And we lived in Greece for 7 months. So I would have been like 7, 8 years old. And just before we were given the green light that we're moving to Canada, they've accepted us. You have to go through this interview process, blah, 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 the whole immigration process. I remember as a kid, my mom had sent me with some new Polish refugees, new arrivals in Greece, to help them buy some furniture because they didn't speak any Greek and stuff like that. And I guess my Greek was good enough at 7 years old to actually manage to bargain, is it like lower the price and stuff? And the people that I was with were so impressed, like, oh my God, like, wow, you can speak Greek. And I'm like, that's when I realized, I'm like, oh, my Greek is actually not bad. This is okay, you know. And then within a few days or weeks, we were told that, you know, we've been accepted, and now all of my Greek was no more, and I didn't speak any English uh, at that time. So I arrived in Canada, you know, at about 9 years old, being able to say, I'm sorry, I don't speak any English. That was the extent of my English.
Yeah, that is insane. So like over these last however many years, it's like been like more fluent for you.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say that my English is more my primary language, more so than Polish. I still speak Polish, but because I don't speak it every day or conversationally, and especially in business, like I'd be lost in a business environment in Polish. In English, I've been working my whole working life has been in English. So, yeah, for sure.
That is so fascinating. Well, let's get back to TikTok. Have you ever like come across somebody that you connected with online that was from Japan and you maybe dropped a little Japanese to them?
Um, Is it? I've surprised people with my language skills before. I don't know if it was necessarily with Japanese,
Okay.
but maybe with Polish or maybe with French. Like I speak French as well, living in Ottawa and Montreal for a little while. So I speak French as well. I'm pretty fluent so I would say English, business, and conversational. Polish, more conversational, less business. But French, more business than Polish French, because I worked in a French environment, a bilingual environment. So yeah, I may have surprised people with that, but not necessarily with Japanese. My Japanese is a little limited.
Yeah. Very interesting. So like how is it for you to like be on TikTok for 2+ years and just all of the different people that you meet? Like I see you go on where you'll actually battle people and it could be people from all across the world. Like how is that as a TikTok content creator?
Um, it's really interesting, you know. I think actually being on TikTok um has affected me in many ways. And, you know, we often talk about like negative ways that social media can affect people. Yeah, there are negative aspects of social media, but I actually think that TikTok has affected me in a positive way. You know, in seeing how the community in and around kind of circulates, and not everyone stays all the time, but some people do, some people don't, and why people seem to come back maybe and stuff like that. I feel I feel a sense of recognition in that, and it's like, oh, people actually want to spend time here, you know. And I think I will speak for myself. I've had a lot of, you know, negative self-talk and beliefs about myself, and like, oh, do people actually want to spend time or whatever, you know? So there's that part of it that I find really interesting, where it's a positive experience. And, you know, your question about meeting different kinds of people online is also kind of, you know, once I realize that I don't have to placate, or I don't have to accept a battle from every single person that requests a battle. I still get to choose. That in itself is empowering, right? And it's like, no, this is not something that's for me. And we don't really get to do that so easily in real life, to be like, no, this isn't vibing. I'm going to try somewhere else, right? Whereas here, and so I think there's like a certain level of like affirmation of self-worth,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, like that kind of ties into like my next question because you were just talking about like kind of talking about self-worth and everything. And just from all of the lives that I've seen with you or the way that you carry yourself, you're a very confident person. So, like, how do you drive that confidence within yourself to know that you can overcome some negative aspects or obstacles that you would typically have just as being a human being?
Mhm. Well, thank you for thinking that I'm confident. It's not always how I feel and what um, yeah, it's interesting that that's how I'm being perceived. Right now, because I stream so frequently, it's quite easy to just go on and do the thing and just realize that I'm not for everybody
Yeah.
and being okay with that.
Yeah.
I am a flavor that not everybody likes. Not everybody likes cilantro. I love cilantro, but not everybody does, right? And that's okay. Not everybody has to like everything. So I think that's a big part of it, is realizing that you're never going to please everybody. There was a moment in my streaming path and experience where I felt like I needed to please everybody, and and make everybody happy. And then people started talking about how they were still unhappy about this or unhappy about that. And I'm like, wow, that really hurts, because I feel like I'm sacrificing a part of my artistic, if you even say integrity, or my artistic creativity, my creativity, so that I can please everybody, because everybody wants somebody, people wants this, somebody, and I'm like, I don't want that. I want this actually, but I'm like, I'm gonna do what people want. And even though I'm doing what people want, there's still somebody that's not happy with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that was a really big realization. And I think that's another way in which TikTok has been very helpful for me, and healthy, in fact, is realizing that you can't please everybody. And if you're trying to please everybody, you're doing yourself a disservice and others, right? Because you're not showing up authentically as the person that you wish to be or want to be. You're not doing the things that you want to do, and you're betraying yourself, because there's always going to be somebody who's not happy with you, whether or not you do what you want to do. So why not just do what you want to do? And there's still going to be somebody unhappy. Who cares, right? So,
Exactly.
so I think, like, in terms of confidence and kind of feeling like yourself, that those moments, and it's a little bit of a rupture in the community sometimes when that happens. And every time there's been a rupture, and there's been a few times that there's been a rupture in the community, um, I really think that it's a necessary thing to happen, because I feel like it gives me new skills to deal with something, or it gives me new perspective about something. And yeah, so I think it's great. I value it.
That is so freaking awesome. I really, really respect that. Well, I know we were just sitting there talking about you going to all these different places around the world, and something I wanted to bring up to you was, if you could go anywhere right now and go and visit and just explore the culture or whatever, where would you want to go and why?
Yeah, I definitely do not wish to ever set foot in New Zealand. That seems like such a horrible place, or Australia. I'm just saying that because I see people from New Zealand are in the chat. But I think that would be a fun place to visit. I also, so when I lived in Ottawa, I used to moonlight as a fashion and style photographer. I've actually been published in Vogue China. Like, I used to do a lot of photography. My claim to fame was one time I got out of a cab and someone ran up to me that I'd never seen before. They're like, "You're that guy that does photography." I'm like, "Yep, that's me." I'm like, that's kind of interesting. That's like my one moment of like, oh wow. Jim says, "Okay, bye." um, and so um, yeah, so while I was doing the photography stuff, I met this woman from France. I'll leave her name out of this, but she was doing a master's or a PhD at the Ottawa University, in a very niche market. I believe it was feminism in 15th century literature. like very, very, very niche. And so she really wanted to study with this one particular professor in Ottawa at Ottawa University. And she also was the co-founder or co-editor of a French publication in France called Photos de Trouble, which means female troublemakers. So photos meaning the feminine, and then trouble, so maker of trouble. And so she engaged with me a couple of times about my photography interests that I had, about my photography projects. And then another thing, I was also on a gay rugby team, and I was the communications director, so I would often be speaking places, and when people had inquiries, they would get forwarded to me. And so we were hosting an event. She wanted access to cover it in her thing. Anyways, we crossed paths a couple of times, and we started to have this friendship, and it was lovely. And we she invited me to visit her in France when she went back. We also did an interesting photography project called Heads and Tails, where we photographed 15 guys front and backs. Yeah, that was really interesting. I can talk to you about that another time, maybe, or maybe a different platform. We can talk about that. But so we collaborated creatively, and then she went back to France, and I visited her in France. And recently, I've been in touch with her, and she's now in French Polynesia. So I guess between here and New Zealand or down under. So I had this thought that visiting maybe and she invited. She's like, "Wouldn't it be fun? Like we met in Ottawa. You saw me in France, in the south of France, and then you could visit me here, and maybe I could visit you here. Like so we could like have these moments of intersecting visits and stuff." So I think that would be my next trip, is trying to plan a trip to somehow make it to Polynesia, French Polynesia, wherever she is. She's on some little island in the middle of the Pacific. And I mean, if the people in New Zealand play their cards right, might even visit them.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, I've kind of heard throughout the grapevine that
Uh-oh.
photography was something that you were really into. So, like, when did you start, or when did you find that skill?
Yeah, so the photography thing started when I was in high school. So when I went to high school, I'm going to date myself here. We used to develop things in the darkroom. And so I took photography classes, I think grade 11 and grade 12, and I quote unquote became the teacher's pet. So he gave me access to the darkroom during lunch hour. So every lunch hour, I was either developing film or making prints, and I just loved it. For whatever reason, it just became this way of being able to express myself creatively, right? And I just really liked it, and people seem to enjoy my perspective, right? So it's about sharing your perspective. We all see this, we're all seeing the same thing in front of us, but we all kind of see it from a little bit of a different perspective. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I did spend quite a bit of time doing the photography. So I did the Ottawa Wolves rugby calendar, which another claim to fame there is one of the photos in that calendar is a nude Last Supper of the rugby boys, which actually was printed in all of the Sun media or Canoe media, which owns the Sun. Like there's the Ottawa Sun and whatever, kind of like a Times thing across the country. And so that was kind of fun. But I do enjoy video quite a bit more. My last stint with photography probably would be where I was the subject of a photo shoot, which was quite a lot of fun as well. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely have to get into that photo shoot because I know that's something I want to bring up with you in a little bit. But I was like scrolling throughout your Instagram and I saw that you were at the Vancouver Pride 2025. So how was that whole experience for you, and just having all of those types of people around you that maybe have the same mindset that you do? How is it for you to be in that kind of environment?
It's interesting. My very first Pride that I ever attended when I first came out was probably in 1996 or 1995. So I came out in grade 11, which was a horrible time to do that in high school. I was one of two queer people, two openly queer people in the high school. People constantly were telling me that so and so wants to fight you because you're this or you're that, using all sorts of slurs. But my very first Pride, as I came out, I made the other person that was gay. Well, she was lesbian actually, but or maybe she's bi. It doesn't matter. But she was also queer, and it was interesting. So my family history is that my dad was an alcoholic. And at one point, a counselor had sent me to Al Anon meetings. So it's for Alcoholics Anonymous, not like family of alcoholics, not necessarily the people who need the treatment. And there I met this girl. She was like one of the facilitators. And then I switched high schools in grade 11. And in my English class, I see this girl and I'm like, oh, hi, how are you? And she's like, hi, good. So I'm like, oh, like I met you in that group. She's like, which group? And I'm like, well, it's like, can we talk after class? Like she became very like, oh, we can't talk about this right now. Like,
Yeah.
okay. So after class in the hallway, I'm like, we met at the group, don't you remember? And I started naming people. She's like, that was an anonymous group. We're not supposed to say people's last names. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, what group did you think? And she's like, well, I also go to this to PTY. I'm like, what is PTY? She's like, Pink Triangle Youth. It's for like young queer people, like a weekly get together. So every Wednesday, I would go to PTY, to this, group of people that would meet, to talk about what's it like to be queer, um, and stuff. And it's where I learned a lot about the community, a lot about safe sex and stuff like that. I think it's such a great institution, such a great thing. I actually have thought about trying to start something here in the city that I live in Nanaimo, a place for young people to gather, and kind of get information and connect with other queer people. So through that, I met some friends. That's how I got introduced to the gay community in Ottawa, which is huge, actually. The gay community in Ottawa is huge. And the very first Pride I ever went to was Toronto Pride, which is one of the biggest prides apparently in North America. So I'm very comfortable being in those crowds. It's not a big deal. I've been in big crowds, and Vancouver that was the first time I ever been to Vancouver for Pride. I actually don't care that much for Vancouver as a city. It just feels like it lacks a soul or something. So I didn't plan to be there for Pride. I was just doing some traveling with out of province friends, and they happened to plan their trip at the same time as Pride was happening. So I put them on a plane, or they went and got on a plane. I guess I didn't even drive them to the airport. I'm a bad friend. And then I went and checked out Pride on my own, and then I went home. So it was more of an accident than an intentional thing. But I mean, how does it feel? It's interesting. Not everything in the queer community actually feels comfortable to me. I know there's a lot of objectification of people, of bodies, of stereotypes within the community. So that's something that I'm not super crazy about. But for the most part, I think it's interesting. It's an interesting experience. I would highly recommend that everybody, whether or not queer or not, should go and check out a Pride event in their lives at least once.
Yeah, I think it was in 2022. Me and my mom went to Pride here in Albany, Oregon. And that was actually a really, really cool experience just because of the fact that, like, those types of events get a lot of hate online, or, they try and say all of these stereotypical negative things. But when you're actually there, it's literally just a group of people wanting to come together to celebrate something that they're constantly having to be hidden behind. So that was something that I loved. And to kind of piggyback off of what you were just saying about you coming out, and it was in 2019, I think it was, that I came out as bisexual. And it was until I think 2021 is when I finally let my mom know. And she's been amazing ever since. Always had support. So I
We
find that
love
so
Linda. Listen, Linda, we love you.
oh, that is so awesome. So
Yeah.
I know when I was looking throughout your, I think it was Instagram, that you have a little character you like to call Voigina.
Oh. Oh.
So when did you start doing that?
Perfectly honest with you, that was completely on accident as well. So many things happen to be on accident that just seem to grow legs and go places. So, um, I thought I kept seeing people online do the Pink Pony Club music video, like singing the Pink Pony Club, the Chapel Roan thing. And I think one of the things that I saw, I'm like, okay, I need to do this. And to be fair, this guy did it much better than I did, but it doesn't matter. It made me do stuff and step out of my comfort zone. So basically, I think it was once she performed a Pink Pony Club at one of the award ceremonies that I started seeing all these people post videos. So it's a guy vacuuming, just doing like some random chore thing, his living room, and he's listening to Pink Pony Club. And then the text goes, me before Chapel Roan performs that said, award chore a show, and then it flips the screen, and then me after the award show. So people seem to really have resonated with her performing this. And and then the next scene it cuts to is him standing on the kitchen countertop in a wig or in some outfit, singing like he's singing for his, it's the last time he's ever going to sing or whatever. I'm like, I could do this. I'm like, I could do this, and I could be extra too. And so that's when I got the wig. So it's the pink wig, Voigina. She's right here. She's never far. So this is Voigina. Right.
That is
I mean,
awesome.
that's a little bit messy, but basically, yeah. So I got Voigina to do this Pink Pony Club moment. Now that's really looking bad. I think I put her on backwards. Hold on, that was the back. And it's such a great wig, but yeah, that's a little bit better, right? Maybe. Anyway, you get the point. And so yeah, I got the wig for that, and then I think Voigina was something that I played around with. Oh, Voigina actually came to be, the name came to be. So my live stream talks a lot about Mean Girls, or there's a lot of Mean Girls references, and in there you have Regina George.
Yeah.
And so I think Voigina is a spin on Regina.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's actually kind of interesting and important to me about the word Regina is that Regina, I believe, was my great grandmother's name.
Oh.
So in a way, it's also a little bit of a tip of the hat to that, to ancestry, if you will.
Yeah. That is so fascinating. So another thing I wanted to bring up to you, that I was scrolling throughout your Instagram, just kind of looking at your videos, is that like you went to a powwow. Is that more of like your like ethnicity is background? No. Okay.
No, not at all. So, I mean, something that I'm actually learning the more that I learn about Indigenous culture and what Indigenous teaching, I don't know why I'm getting emotional about. So I went to a dance gathering called like the Dance Temple Gathering, and there was a lot of Indigenous influence there and talking, and we were on Providence Farm, which also has a residential school on it, which carries a lot of, horrible things that have happened to the community. But one of the things that they talked about a lot is that we're all Indigenous to somewhere. So yes, I'm an immigrant, here on this land, but I also have Indigenous roots to somewhere. And I think like celebrating our tribal roots, our indigenousness to wherever it is that we belong is so important. And I think, knowing more about that, I would like to get to know more about my ancestry and my indigenous roots from the land that, my parents decided to leave. But yeah, this, I don't know if you know about the red dress, but this is like an indigenous symbol as well. I bought this actually from an indigenous craft person. Um, it's something that resonates with me, the connection and stuff, and reconciliation and stuff like that. People have asked me, there's at least one person that's come into the stream once and asked me if I'm indigenous. I'm not indigenous, but I really do value, people. uh, I took that as a great compliment, that I perceived myself in an indigenous way of some sort, or that people perceive me in that way. I just think it's important to honor the land where we work and play and live.
I really, really respect that. That it means a lot that you would open up like that. So thank you. I also was looking throughout your Instagram and I saw the Pink Pony Club. So, like, what kind of environment is that? Like, what do they do there?
The Pink Pony Club. I think that was just somebody playing that song, right?
Mhm.
Is that the drag king kind of singing stuff?
Yeah.
So that was at a restaurant called MGM, which is where I served for a short time. I used to serve tables there. But between everything that I do, I just don't think I have the time. But I've always wanted to be a server or a bartender. So, and my friend needed the help. She runs the restaurant, or she owns the restaurant, or whatever her family does. And so I ended up serving that event, and it's part of the Nanaimo Pride event. So it was a drag disco, basically, not drag disco, but a drag bingo rather, that they did. So they did a bingo thing, and in between games they would do a number, and so I just happened to record that number that they did. But it's not really a place, it's just people really resonating with that song by Chapel Roan, I guess.
Very fascinating.
Well, it might be a place. I think Chapel said that Pink Pony Club came to her after she visited West Hollywood, right? So West Hollywood is like the queer part of Los Angeles, isn't it? And I think maybe that's kind of what she's basing that whole thing about.
Okay. Interesting. So I know you were saying that like you want to kind of endeavor more on your own YouTube page. So like what is it that like you are thinking about putting together?
Oh my God. How many days do you have, Cody? Yeah, so I have wanted to have a presence on YouTube for a really long time, probably close to about a decade. And I think you alluded in some of your notes that, there's stuff on there right now. It's kind of part of what I wanted to do, but I'm getting it a little bit more cohesive. And basically, I want like the short answer, and then you can ask any follow-up questions you want, is spill the tea. Oh my God, Lois, no, I can't. Okay, I'll give you, this is what I'm going to tell you. 4 seasons, 1 season a year, 36 episodes per season. Each season and each month is going to be a puzzle. There's going to be puzzles within puzzles that people can solve, and there's going to be additional content as rewards that people will get to see my private writing, or can I say this? Why not? Should I spill the tea? Are you ready for this tea, Cody?
Spill it.
I've been spending a lot of time with ChatGPT. One of the things that I've been spending time doing with ChatGPT is co-authoring. Are you ready for it? Erotica.
Oh, nice. Interesting.
So that's my idea. We're getting an entire season. So that's what I'm thinking of doing, is actually maybe one of the rewards could be, oh, here's something I co-authored with ChatGPT, right? As a reward. Or sometimes the reward will give you hint to another puzzle that will get you even deeper. So I've been actually, I don't know if you know this about my content on TikTok, but I've already been embedding a lot of puzzles in my content as it is.
Mhm.
Those people that know solve it. Those people that don't know don't solve it, and that's fine. But yeah, I have an interest in puzzles, and basically, yeah. So it's gonna be that the main overarching theme of the YouTube series is going to be actually my hospitalization, my TikTok journey, and everything kind of leading up to when I start the YouTube series.
That is so fascinating. That should be really interesting to really dive into.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm struggling to get started. That is actually the reason why I'm taking the 2 weeks off from streaming, is to get started on that so I can get momentum. And once I have momentum, once I have it moving, then it'll be easier to continue moving that and then reintroduce TikTok streaming. But right now, the streaming is taking so much space that I'm having a hard time getting that boulder of the YouTube to actually start moving.
Yeah, that is so cool. So what is one favorite quote that you kind of live with yourself since you've heard it?
Something I've often said, I mean, I've got a few, but I used to say this a long time ago, for as long as I can remember, like probably sometime around high school this started for me, but learn to love and love to learn. That's it. So the idea, like, we live to learn. I think that when we stop learning, we become stagnant and static, and we're no longer expanding. One of the innate things about the universe is that it's forever expanding. It's never stopping to expand, it's constantly expanding. And as soon as we stop expanding or learning, I believe we go against our nature, our true nature, to continue to expand, to grow, to learn, right? But we also need to learn how to love to expand. A lot of us struggle with change, right? When change happens, we're like, change, like all the stuff that's happening on TikTok, right? I struggle with change. I revolted with the emotes on TikTok for the subscriptions. Anyways, that's another story. But like, we have these really intense reactions to change, but change is just an introduction to expand. And that's exactly what happened. So I'll give you a little synopsis of what happened with TikTok. TikTok went from their regular $2 or $4 subscription a month to, at I think for Canadians, it's like a $15 subscription a month, to content creators, content. As a subscriber, what I offer to the subscribers on TikTok who pay the monthly fee is access to the emotes. And the emotes come with sound. So people can use an emote that plays a sound, blah, blah, blah. You're recognized. Well, we had about 50 emotes for the $4 that people were paying. As TikTok pivoted to the $15 or whatever it is fee, they only gave me place for 15 emotes. So like a one-fourth almost. I'm like, which ones do I choose? How do I make the choice? And so I said, you know what? I am just gonna make this my own. No longer are they subscriber emotes. Anybody who follows me can type in a command, exclamation mark, and then a command, and they get to use that emote. It works a little bit different than the way that the subscriber emotes do, but kind of end up being the same thing. So this change did force me to expand. I resisted it. I'm like, did all of that. And I'm like, okay, well, I've had it. I'm going to stick it to the man. And it's like, I'm not really, so this motivation to stick it to the man made me expand and give more to more people, right?
Yeah.
So Yeah, I think that's what that quote is about, is, live to learn and learn to love.
That is really awesome. Well, I just want to thank you for actually allowing me to sit down with you and you taking time out of your day to sit down and just go throughout all of these questions and really get to know who VOI is.
It's my pleasure. I'm honored that you even ask. It's the first time that anyone's ever asked me to be part of a podcast. So I think that's an honor for me. But I was wondering if you've got another few minutes, if I could ask you some questions.
Yeah, of course. No problem.
You ready for the hot seat?
Sure.
So tell me about this podcast. How did you get the idea for the podcast?
So it was a few years ago. Whenever I would be talking with people, I would be asking them questions. And at the end of whenever they would answer, I'd be like, that's really interesting. And it just became something that I naturally did whenever I talk to people. So that's why it's called Interesting Podcast, because it was pretty like I didn't have to try to like say that. I just naturally said it. So it just became like the perfect podcast name. And then it was 2.5 years ago is when I started interviewing people. And ever since then, that's what I do. So
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, it sounds very much like it's an organic thing. You're talking about it just organically happened. I just say that's interesting, and
yeah.
so it's interesting. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And so you've been doing the podcast and interviewing people. Do you ever interview people in person, or is it always on the podcast?
I've only had one person that I've interviewed in person, and that was my sister Mariah. But that is something that I definitely want to do eventually, is be able to like rent out, a hotel room that is close to whoever I'm going to interview, and then set up a little podcast area and have it be like in person. So that's definitely something I'm striving for. It's just expenses. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's awesome. And so that was my warm-up questions. Are you ready for some difficult questions?
Sure.
Okay. So who is your favorite guest so far that you've had on the podcast?
That would have to be Jack
And you
Hammer.
don't. Oh,
Yeah, his name is Jack
awkward.
Hammer.
That's awkward. Wow.
No.
Sorry, say that again.
It's Jack Hammer. He's a professional wrestler. I've had him on 3 times actually. And the third time that he was on, we were talking for 2 hours and 45 minutes. So we got into a lot during that conversation. And he's just a natural at talking about pro wrestling. And I really admire him. He's really cool.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, I saw. That's why I messaged you earlier today. I'm like, how long is this going to take? Because I'm like, most of them are under an hour, but that one was 2 hours and 40. I saw that. I'm like,
Yeah.
So what's the interest in pro wrestling? Tell me more about that.
Well, I've been watching professional wrestling since I was 10 years old. I remember my dad's like scrolling through the TV, and I had like a little glimpse of it. And my parents would actually sit there and watch boxing when I was younger. So to me, I automatically thought like, oh, Dad, the fight's on. Like, why are you skipping toward like past it? And he's like, that's completely different. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's completely different? Like, what? And so he went back to the channel, and I sat there and I watched the match for a little while, and I fell in love with it. And I asked him, what's the channel? Like, what's it on? He's like, it's on UPN 49. And I went into the living room, put it to that channel, and I've been watching it ever since. So it's definitely stuck with me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is there anything in particular about wrestling that you really enjoy?
When you get into it, I think a lot of people have this negative thought on pro wrestling and, it being storytelling or it being fake or, whatever. But it seems like with my personality, I like things that people will sit there and have negative thoughts on. Like, I'll watch golf, even though people are like, oh my God, that's so boring. How could you watch it? And it's like, because of the fact that I was interested in it because I wanted to know why people hated it. You know what I mean? So it actually fueled my passion to want to go out and experience new things that people would deem negative or bad or whatever.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about like what part of your personality has so it sounds like to me a little bit like you're interested in that which is frowned upon, right? As if you try and understand what is it about something that makes people frown at it.
Yeah.
Have you ever, it seems like there might be a deeper meaning in that for you. Have you ever given it any thought? And if you haven't, I would encourage you to maybe one day meditate on it or something, because it seems like a very unique thing to be excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've never really thought of it that way. I've just always looked at people like when you constantly hear like, oh, golfing it's so boring, it's so slow. It's like, but if you actually play golf, like I play golf, and so like it adds that intensity because I know how difficult it is for them to, be able to make a par or make a birdie, like it's really difficult.
So that's a great segue to another question I have for you. How is your wrestling career?
I've gone to one pro wrestling tryout where I was actually able to step into the ring and take a bump or, lock arms and whatever. And I hit my head when I actually landed on the mat. And it's like nothing but steel beams, pieces of plywood, and then a really thin mat on top of it. So when you take that bump, what they call, landing, like you could get your air knocked out of you pretty easily if you don't bump it correctly. So that was something that really woke my eyes up as to like, when people get slammed and whatever, they're really putting their bodies on the line to be able to do it. And I would suggest for anybody who doesn't know professional wrestling to definitely go out and go and try it. Do it yourself and then
Interesting.
come up with an opinion.
That's very interesting. See, now you've got me hooked. You've got me hooked on the professional wrestling, on saying that's interesting. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. So, did you ever get a chance to actually pick a name for your wrestling character?
I've had a wrestling character in mind since I was a teenager. It's called Riot.
Can you say that again? Riot?
Riot, yeah.
Oh, cool. I love that. And the story behind that?
Kind of like a rebellious anarchist, what they would call not a baby face or a heel, but a anti-hero. So I would do everything that's bad, but it would be in the light of doing good in professional wrestling.
Interesting. Yeah, I see Linda says Canada has wrestling in the chat. And actually, one of my co-workers is a professional wrestler. I don't know, does she go by they? I'm not sure. But she actually has a fully developed character and she puts on shows quite often. She's invited me to shows. So maybe one of these days, if I actually make it to the show, I should do a live stream from there because I think it's fascinating. I think it's such interesting play.
Yeah. That's really awesome. If you actually get a chance, have her go and check out my podcast. You never know what could happen.
Interesting. It's contagious, Cody. Okay, my final question. No, maybe not my final, but another difficult question for you.
Okay.
And you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but we really want to know the tea. So, who was your least favorite guest?
That I'm actually drawn between two people, and I
You
don't
don't
know
have to say who.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to say who, but they didn't understand that like I'm looking for a story. Like I want you to expand off of what I first present to you so that then I get more context from their perspectives. And it seemed like those two, what they call keeping kayfabe, means like keeping it within the wrestling community. So like they won't expand on what exactly I'm trying to get them to expand on. And it just felt like they didn't have that storytelling basis that I could really go off of. It was like yes or no answers or like very basic responses. And I didn't get that connection between us. Like our personalities just did not mesh well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Originally, when I asked you if I can ask questions, this is going to be a complete pivot here. I'm going to try and stay under an hour. But the reason why I wanted to ask you questions is because of someone who's in the community who I understand sometimes can make you blush.
I knew that this was going to come up. I knew it.
Perfect. That means you're ready for it. Tell us everything.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? I mean, so tell us. So I guess I'll just mention her name. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Leah is someone that you enjoy seeing, and is that like, do you find there's a budding interest there? Like, have you all connected outside of the streams?
I mean, I've messaged her, a few times, and I always tell her that she's fucking gorgeous because she is. Like, I'm sorry, like I'm sitting here, I'm getting a little giddy right now, but yeah, dude, she's gorgeous.
Uh-huh.
That's why, I sit there and I call her my TikTok wife.
Oh, perfect. So have you ever gotten jealous of her like flirting with other people in the stream?
Oh no. My mom taught me way better than that.
I know it's like a running joke sometimes, like, oh, don't tell Cody.
yeah, I got that, and I was like, whatever, it's all good.
I love it. I think it's such a fun side thing that happens, and and we all kind of are there for it. I think it's super sweet. I think that's all the questions I had for you. I'll leave you with one last one. My last question for you would be your dream guest.
Ricky Gibson. So he is actually the owner and promoter and head trainer for Oregon Pro Wrestling School. Because I interview a lot of the wrestlers that are coming up in training and whatever. And he's the head person. And he told me a few months ago that he's drained on podcasts right now because so many people want to talk to him. But he told me to not leave it and like we can do it in the future. So he's definitely going to be somebody I'm eventually going to be able to have on. And he's like my Mount Rushmore of I want to interview these people. Definitely.
That's amazing. Incredible. Well, and it sounds like he's into it. He just needs to find the bandwidth for it. So congratulations on that in advance.
I appreciate that.
Well, and I really appreciate you actually taking some time to answer my silly questions. I think it's awesome for us to get to know you a little bit more. I loved seeing you get giddy talking about Leah. I think it's super adorable. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Cody.
All right, man. Well, I hope you have a very, very good night, and I'll definitely talk to you when you return to TikTok.
Sounds good. Take care. See you later.
Bye. Well, all right, you guys. So that was Interesting's podcast interview with VOI. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you guys get notified whenever I upload content. Make sure to go and follow me on social media at CodyT503. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I hope you all have a very, very good night, and I'll catch you guys later.